Quiet Connection is proud to be affiliated with the Blue Dot Project through Postpartum Support International. As an ambassador, I am dedicated to promoting perinatal mental health awareness, spreading the blue dot as a symbol of support and solidarity, and ending the stigma and shame. The blue dot is a universal symbol for perinatal mental health and is owned by the community. That means you. Anyone can use it. You'll notice a blue dot on all of Quiet Connection's social media accounts. To learn more, visit thebluedotproject.org. Welcome to Quiet Connection, a podcast dedicated to ending the stigma around perinatal mental health. I'm Chelsea. Today, I'm connecting with Susan, a powerhouse advocate and the founder of Kassy's Kause. She shares her story that spans 3 generations of parenting, opening up about her own early experiences with motherhood and the heartbreaking journey of her daughter, Kassy, who struggled with perinatal depression. This is a conversation about turning grief into a life-saving mission through education, community, and fierce advocacy. Susan's message is vital. Motherhood is a series of chapters, and you never have to suffer through them alone. Let's dive in. Hello! Today I'm here with Susan. Susan, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here. We were just talking about this before recording about how Susan is in the sunshine and I am in the I'm in the like ice fortress right now. And how I wish I could
Surrounded by nice chili.
Oh my God, but we're both surrounded by farms, so we have that in
Yes.
common.
Yes.
Susan, I have my list of things that I know about you, but what my listeners really love is if you can kind of introduce yourself and let us know who you are today and who you were before you became a mom.
Okay, so been married 37 years. I currently have 7 children, 9 grandchildren, and I am the founder of Kassy's Cause, a nonprofit organization. This March will be 11 years that I founded. I'll get a little more detail about that after, but who I was before. I was born in Peru, in South America, and came to the States with a mom, my brother, and my dad when I was 5 years old, and straight to New York, which was cold, and now it's warm. And we grew up there and got married and moved to New Mexico a few years later and raised our 4 kids that we had 4 then and got 3 more afterwards. Our 4 older children are biological children, and our last 3 children we adopted when they were babies, 3 siblings, back to back in age. So now they're graduating soon, and the house is getting smaller and smaller. My 4 older ones have their families, and the last 3, next to 2 boys, are ready to leave this year. And yeah, so it's been interesting, the difference of who I was then. I've always talked a lot and I talk really fast, and I have to learn to slow slower. The excuse being from New York, don't cut it all the time. But I always like talking. And that's the first thing my husband said, that we met when I was 15, but we didn't date in high school or college, but we knew of each other. And he always say, "You talked a lot," and I laugh because I go, "Yeah, that's kind of true. People say that about me." Um, but I think learning as I got older what to talk about, learning to speak a little slower, and the purpose on everything that I've learned to speak about has become one of the biggest gifts in my life, to be able to share. So yeah, I've grown and I'm still growing. Not in size, I could tell you I am short. I'm like barely 5 feet. My kids all past me. All my grandkids practically have passed me. And my 10-year-old granddaughter is taller than me. Um, so I am short. So I always make the joke, I go, I have grown. Yes, not in size. When I do presentations, they'll laugh. But as a person, I've learned throughout the years to learn more of what talents I think I was given as a gift. I would say, as from God, that I never really appreciated it, just that I talked a lot, but I learned what to talk about. Yeah.
Well, um, Yeah, that is a lot. I'm also a talker, so this is gonna be a fun challenge for both of us. And I think but I love how you kind of approached it too, like, you talk a lot, but now you're very intentional about what you're talking about because you are an advocate. You're an advocate for maternal mental health. You're an advocate, um, for so many things. We're gonna get into it. But, also, my mother-in-law is also 5 foot, so and has the biggest personality ever, so, like, that resonates as well. I forget
Then they said
sometimes.
then they
Um
say, "Get these come in small packages." I was like, "I'm telling you, get these come in small."
Yes, yes. So, you have gone through several evolutions, not just as a person, but as a parent. You started your parenting journey, like you said, you had 4 biological children and then later adopted 3 children, and you're kind of, like, going through that phase again, like, you did it all twice. Talk to me.
Well, 3
Oh,
actually, 3, because my 2 younger granddaughters, because my oldest daughter unfortunately wound up getting a multiple sclerosis in her mid-20s and was divorced after. So we've been raising the grandkids since
okay.
practically an infant, and the other one, since she was a toddler. So we have 9 kids, I should say.
9 kids. Okay, so yeah, you kind of cover the whole gambit here of creating this beautiful family of yours. Um, let's go back to the beginning because there's a lot we're gonna cover today, but I wanna focus on your story a little bit first. Did you always envision yourself having kids or having a large family?
I did. Actually, I come a family of 3, married someone who came from a family of 10. Who said he only wanted 1 or 2 children. I said, "Oh, no, I love what I see. I want a big family." And I always loved being the oldest, I guess, always loved being the mama. Always wanted to have children. Never knew how many, but I guess I based it on seeing my husband's big family. My lucky number was 8. So I said, "I want 8 kids." My husband said, "No way." But we did end up getting a large family. Yeah.
Yeah. So those you did end up with a large family. In those early days, like, when you were first entering motherhood, what was that experience like for you? It was a different world, number 1, and yeah, and it was a different time. What was that experience like for you?
I embraced my pregnancy, and I was young. Barely
Yeah.
just turned 20 years old. I was young, but I remember saying to myself, making a list of all the different things I was going to offer this child. I came from a divorce home, so watching my mom struggle to really make ends meet, that she always concentrated the importance of being motherhood. But we were limited to the things that I liked to do. I said, I'm going to have my kid, as a boy, it's going to be in sports. A girl, it's going to be in dance school. I envisioned, of everything I wanted to do. And my pregnancy went excellent. My delivery went really great too. I had back then I didn't even know what the word doula was, but she was
Mm,
there and a midwife. She was a midwife, and so they guided me, and it was great. I really had a great experience. It was my second one that was really really hard, and didn't know where to talk to, who to share with. Who would have thought 30 years later I realized where I can go and turn to, and I was going through something. I had had a miscarriage, and got pregnant of the next one short time afterwards. So my whole pregnancy, I walked around with fear and didn't share with anyone. Just I was really paranoid. Like I didn't move too much. I didn't want to go nowhere. I thought maybe because I ate something wrong before. It was really, really hard. And then her delivery was really traumatic. Again, I thought this was just different than the first one. Everybody says your pregnancies are all different, your deliveries all different. So I expected and didn't really share much of what my inside thoughts were. Then my third and fourth were the easiest deliveries, and I was like, we could have more, and we said no. We talked about adoption, so we're good. We'll stay right there. Um, so I've had it, up and down experiences. Like I said, my last two were incredible. The deliveries, the pregnancies, um, but then now, like I said, with what I'm doing now, I look back and I realized there were things I didn't know. Like with my third child, there was just like a sweep of emotion of, I remember they were 2 years apart. Well, 4 years the first one, and 2 years and 2 years. And I remember changing her diaper, And the other was like, "Mom, mom, mom." And the other was, "Mom, look at this. Mom, look at this." She was in school. "Mom, look at this." And then she was crying. It was like a super, and honestly, it was a super emotion. I turned around and said, "Mom, it's not here." And I started crying. And then they
Mm,
started crying. Then the baby started crying more. They were all crying, like a chorus of crying. And I didn't know why. And then I hushed everybody, calmed them down, changed the diapers. And the first thing that came to my head was, is this what motherhood's going to be? Having a lot of children? Why did I go to school for? All I do is diapers and take care of schoolwork and take care of a toddler. And almost like a complaining. And I felt so guilty. And I felt so horrible to even have those thoughts. And so I just kind of pushed it aside, went along, never even shared with my husband until like years later. The kids were grown and married. Never shared with him because I thought, how horrible. He's going to tell me, well, you wanted more than, more than two kids. Or
yeah.
how could a mother think that way? Or my mother never said that. And she has so many kids. All those things came to my head. Then I'm going to share my mom because she was always so busy providing for us. I don't think she ever even probably had time to think about it, how she felt as motherhood. We didn't really speak about that. So I really felt I had no one to share with. And so it was pushed aside and continue going. Kids grow up and then find out years later for the awareness and advocating that I'm doing from my experiences were through my pregnancies or my deliveries or my experience with that child, that I was going through. But pretty much, I think I had pretty good ones, except for the second one of my situation because I had a miscarriage before.
Yeah. Well, and so much of what you're saying speaks to things maybe that were of the time, but they're also timeless as well, right? Like you mentioned, like your mother-in-law, you were like, well, she had 10 kids and I never heard her complain. And I didn't want to talk to my mom about it because she was helping us so much. And again, of that time period, people weren't talking there. I don't even think there was a thing such like there was
It
obviously
was I
postpartum.
was going back
It
when it started.
right.
Yeah.
It wasn't a diagnosis, it obviously existed, but people weren't saying like, "Oh, she's got postpartum depression," or, "Oh, this, that, and the other thing." So it wasn't something that was normalized or talked about, but those feelings of shame and guilt still linger today for so many parents, moms, dads, parents, caregivers. So it's a universal experience, but and like I said, when you talk about the importance of sharing those things, we'll get into that when we talk about your advocacy. You mentioned that your mom was really helping you guys and supporting you guys at the time. Did you feel, and I know you said you didn't even talk to your husband about it. Was there anyone in your life that you could kind of turn to just to like maybe set things down for a minute or feel like you for a minute?
Honestly, I don't think so. I'm sure there was, but I didn't dare share.
Mhm.
um, Church going family, and even then, I was close to my bishop's wife, who I looked upon like as mom. But she has 7 kids, and I was like, "Oh, she seems like she's doing okay." You know, I think I, I, at a young age, because we came from another country, and my mom didn't speak the language while growing up as a child. I became almost like a caretaker. I became like a protector of my mom, my brother, my sister, especially when my parents broke up. My mom had to quickly try to pick up the language. She went to school to learn the language. And as I got older, I was graduating high school, going to college. She was finishing college. I mean, she really pushed herself. She was really my example. But as a motherhood for myself, you really turn to TV and you see these moms going along, working and going to school, or back then, like Leave It to Beaver, just being the mom who has cookies ready when you walk in and you gotta do your
Oh,
job. And
yeah.
there's no, so I really in my head was stuck on what I saw on TV, what I saw my mom provide for us, and I had to do that role. And and even though, education was very strong in my household, it was really important to go to school and advance to get educated, but still your role is that housewife, mom role. So no, I'm sure I probably would have been able to, they would have listened, but I was too scared because I was surrounded by so much. Back then I wasn't social media, but it was just TV, and
Yeah.
my roles around me were the moms that did what they had to do. No complaints. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the narrative. And even today, I mean, I think there's a much bigger push to talk about the hard parts, but, like you said, with social media and just media in general, there is still this narrative of, like, sunshines and rainbows and doing crafts with your kids and being happy all the time, and that's not sustainable at all. Did that start to shift for you at a certain point? Like, I know because you've raised so many kids at this point, you've gone through all the ages and stages. Did that mindset start to shift for you at any point?
I think when we adopted, there were 3 siblings back to back. It was 10 months old, the other one just had turned 2. So you could say 1, 2, and the other one just had turned 3. So
Mm,
it was a group of siblings of practically almost triplets. And it was supposed to be planned that way. We were just looking to adopt one, but when we found out about the other ones, I quickly said, "I can't separate them, I'll take all 3." And
yeah.
so they're like, "Really? I'll take all 3 children." So I remember the shift for me then was my heart wanted to be that mom, but my life surrounding was changing completely to now, oh, you don't get a chance to go to the movies when you want to. And you don't get to sleep in because your older kids know how to go get the bowl of cereal now. No, because you have little ones you have to get up to make breakfast for. So I remember feeling that shift as for, wow, I'm really doing this all over again. And emotionally trying to adapt and then also adapting with the difference of I'm older now and I'm maybe a little wiser to how to handle, the spilled milk. I think when you're
Yeah.
first starting out, like, how do you spill that milk? With I go, it's okay. As long as you're not cut, that's fine. And my older
Yeah.
kids be like, I get yelled at if I did that, and you're so like, it's okay. So my shift, I think that's when I noticed how motherhood has to do it from your first experience to your next experience, um, and within inside of me, understanding to be kind to myself if I wasn't doing something right. Where before, I just went along with it and kept quiet. And with the second group, I always put my first group, my second group, I had to be kind to myself and not judge myself so much, and know that I'm still learning, even though it's my second group. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I can totally visualize your older kids being like, "Where was this mom when I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck?" But I
We
think
do.
that that's a normal sort of common experience anyway. My kids are 7 years apart, so I have a
Uh-huh.
10-year-old and a 3-year-old, and even my 10-year-old is like, "How come she gets to do this and I didn't get to do this?" I'm like, because I'm older and I
Yeah.
was just learning with you, okay? Cut me a
I think we
break,
we
like
we we nitpick and really want that, honestly, almost like that Leave It to Beaver, like, kids have to listen and you give them this and everything was so perfect, and I really honestly, I think I exhausted myself when my
yeah,
first group, especially I was younger back then. You're talking about like the 80s. I exhausted myself having to have to be so certain way. But my 3 groups, my granddaughters, who are younger because they're almost close to say with my second group because they're 11. Oh, she just turned 12 and 13. You know, um, I'll hear her say, "Well, why so and so got to do this and I can't do that?" And like, oh, third group. Okay, here we go. You go along it. The same thing, adjustments to trying to divide that they're your grandchildren, they're your granddaughters, slash, but you're being parents because your daughter can be a parent yet. And my older daughter's here with us because we have to help her out. She's in her late 30s and still she's my daughter who can't be on her own because of her multiple sclerosis. So with our lives, we've had to adjust in the different like a roller coaster. We had to really adjust to all the different things that we had to do. It's not easy, but honestly, I turn to my faith and I say that if it wasn't for that keeping me grounded, I would have lost it a long time
yeah.
ago.
I mean,
Yeah.
and two, to give yourself some credit, like, you you rode that roller coaster, right? Like, you were there for every iteration and every change and every evolution, and the one thing that strikes me too, as we're speaking is just the joy. You exude joy. Like, I understand that you are incredibly hardworking and that you have a lot on your plate, but you have a joy that sort of radiates off of you. It doesn't mean that you enjoy every moment of
Right.
every day.
Yeah.
But the I get the sense that you can still find the glimmers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I do. I see in the personalities growing up. I see it in their talents. I see it in me still doing what I said before I had children, supporting them in what they want to do. From my first child when they go into acting. I managed that kiddo from age 9 all the way to 18 is acting. He's worked with incredible people,
Wow.
George Lopez, Toby Keith, uh, so I mean, he's done really incredible work, Jessica Alba, and so he's done these movies. He succeeded. I watched him grow. I felt that proudness in watching him develop his talent. And then he always wanted to have his own business. By 21, he had his own business, got married, had his house. I mean, this kid really did incredible. My other children as well were entrepreneurs with their talents, you know. And I think I do get that joy. I can never say, oh, pat on, it's me. No, I'm like, I'm glad I had the opportunity to see this human being that I can guide to what he wants to do or she wants to do. And the same thing now with my second group, he's planning to go in the military. He got his paperwork ready to go into Air Force. The other one wants to go to a church mission. The other one, she wants to be a veterinarian. So she's looking to how one day we'll put a nonprofit here in Puerto Rico because a lot of animals are going to lose. So I look at them, I listen, I go, well, we could find that information. We could do that. Where I understand that my upbringing, even my husband's, we didn't have that. It was like live to survive. You have a roof over your head and you eat every single day. Keep going. Um, but it's different. It's different now. It's like, what are your goals? What are your dreams? How can I help you be to where you want to go to? I do. I mean, they do get disciplined. But believe me, there's no tablet sometimes. There's no phone
Of
sometimes. You can't
course.
watch a favorite show. But I get to see them grow. I get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what I tell them. And I'm okay with that because that's part of life.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of brings us naturally into how you got into advocacy work and how you got into your work with especially advocating for maternal mental health. Can you talk to us a little bit about what brought you into this realm?
So out of the four older children, my third child, Cassandra, I would say Cassandra with a K because I didn't realize people spelled it with a C. Cassandra with a K. Uh, she, high achiever young woman, since she was a child. There was nothing she couldn't do. She was this little girl who was 2 years old, so her older siblings riding a two-wheel bike, and I had the training wheels, and she was like, "Take it off. I got this." I said, "No, you're gonna fall. You're 2 years old. Take it off." I said, "Fine. You want to fall? No problem." I took it off. She held it. She touched it, and she just started riding. I was like, "She's 2 years old. Two wheel, little tiny two wheel." Um, she and that was just like the beginning of me watching what she was determined to do. And then as time went on, and from her schooling, she always chose to be like a high achiever. But I think she was so hardcore on herself. Of if it was a B, she pushed that A. If it was an A, she wanted an A plus. And I never pushed my kids to have to be honor students. I never pushed my kids. You have to have A's in all that report card. I said, if you studied and you know when you take that test, you did your best. That's what I expect from you. You did your best. But don't expect to get an A if you didn't do anything and you get a D and then be shocked. No, obviously you didn't do something. Um, but but she always, was the person that really pushed herself. And growing up, she always was a person with an agenda, with a plan. So she was like, I'm gonna go to high school, I'm gonna go to the community school, get my course out of the way, move on to the University of Pittsburgh, go out to Pittsburgh to go to school out there, and then get married, then already with a degree. But she had a boyfriend before she left, which then became her fiance. Came back, got married, put that school on hold while he graduated from UNM University. So they got married in December, and then January she wasn't feeling well, found out she was pregnant. And even though she was excited, it was out of her agenda and her plans. All of us supported her. I love children. So I remember, as a matter of fact, I saw her write, I forgot what she wrote something. She goes, okay, we had to tell Okay, no, I should have checked. Already told my parents, of course, they're going to be all excited about having children, grandbabies, because we already had other grandchildren. Um, but now we have to speak to our in laws, where they also were hardcore on education and they were more like, wait a while to have children. And so it came with a lot of debilitating illnesses that I had never experienced, or the older ones that we had not known about, like with this consistent vomiting and, you know, she was having anxiety. We didn't know she was having anxiety till, down the road, her husband told us she was having panic attacks. She was unable to sleep. And because of her personality, every job she had, it went from being a cashier to a trainee manager. And then by 2 months, she was already a manager. Everything she did just picked her up because of her personality. And the job she had taken, she had just started, and they moved it up to manager short time afterwards, not knowing what she was going through medically in herself and her body. But she knew financially would have helped them, for the reason that because he was still finishing up school. And I'm here like thinking, oh, everything's going great from afar. They don't live with me. So I'm thinking when I talk to her, she goes, oh, I keep vomiting. I said, well, that happens sometimes to some women. Oh, I hear the first trimester, go to the doctors, maybe get some crackers, some ginger ale,
Yeah.
things everybody tells you. And she's like, "Yeah, I can't hold nothing down, but I can only have ice pops." So, still I had no idea. Then she said, "I can't sleep well." I would tell her, "Have some tea with chamomile." I mean, natural things I did not think and know of her thoughts, of her feelings, nothing. And I didn't know to think about to ask. But she could go into the emergency room for help. And they kept turning her away, saying, "You were here last week. You're fine. We told you. You're a new mom. Baby's doing okay. Go home." But now she's going through this whole thing in her head. I must be going crazy. My mom didn't go through this. My sisters didn't share these kind of feelings. I have friends who are also having children, and there's something wrong with me. And unfortunately, I have 4 months pregnant, little over 4 months pregnant. You know, um, Obviously, also a lot of contention like between her husband because she had these mood swings. She was fine, for a couple of days, and she was then just really irritated and picking on every little thing they could argue about. And I kept telling her, "Well, your body's going through a lot of changes, so emotionally you're more sensitive." Telling them both the same thing, not knowing what more they shared between each other of her feelings and not knowing where to go or where to turn to. Just at the hospital themselves, professionals themselves are telling them, baby's okay, go home. You were here last week. It's okay, go home. And it was consistent. I had no idea. And so one of those really hard nights that she was struggling, I had spoken to her the day before and she had been crying. And I said, her husband had called and said, look, here she goes again. One of her moments. Can you please talk to her? I said, you okay? She said, I'm fine. I said, "You sure you could talk to me?" And it's true. We have such tight relationship. Again, she had the best friend. She had her grandmother. She was close to. She had me. She had church leaders, but she still felt she couldn't share. And it's sad because I was in that situation many years before. But I think we were more aware of postpartum depression by then. We knew the word hormonal at least by then. And she unfortunately struggled through the night and she took her life. She took her life, which we got the phone call was a nightmare. I think I would say probably harder for my husband than me in a different way, because he had to go and see what happened. Um, we got a call from her mother-in-law saying, I got a call from the police, to head over that way. And I don't know what's going on. And I'm thinking, I just spoke to him yesterday, and I know that his car, I think, crash got broken into like 2 days before. And I told his mother, I said, "Oh my gosh, I hope nothing happens." So she goes, "I'm heading over there." It was a Sunday morning because we were getting ready to go to church. And I told my husband, "You head out there. I'll stay with the kids. Call me when you get there." And she was only 45 minutes away. So an hour and a half goes by. He doesn't call me. I'm calling him. He doesn't answer. I call my son-in-law. He doesn't answer. I call her. She doesn't answer. I call the mother-in-law. She doesn't answer. And my heart just started I started breathing heavy. And I said, something's wrong. Oh my gosh, something's wrong. Never can I expect, of course, what the results are. Um, but by the third hour, I see my older children running in like hysterical into the house to go, Dad just told us to come here. And I held onto the counter. I said, why? He said, just to get there and call him. So I call him. I said, call your dad. And then he goes, have Ray Jr. bring you here. I said, no. I'm not leaving till you tell me what happened to my Casey. He goes, I can't tell you. I said, I'm not leaving. And he goes, I can't tell you, just have him bring you here. But I could hear his voice. I could hear his voice shaking. So I knew there was bad news. And he goes, I can't. So we're arguing like 5 minutes. He goes, fine, she's gone. I go, what? She's gone. I go, what do you mean she's gone? And he goes, she's dead. The whole house just blew up. I dropped the phone. I dropped to the floor. My son hysterical. My other daughter's hysterical. The other daughter is on her way, heading over, um, rushing. She lived an hour away, on the phone with her sister. And then the little ones are there standing there, like half dressed, crying hysterical to see everything going on. And that just stopped me. Like I said, for me, I took motherhood really seriously to understanding. I've always been a caretaker in a sense, from my siblings to my older children. Now I have the grandkids and the younger ones. So I cleaned my face up. I said, keep speaking to your father, see what's going to happen. I'm taking care of the kids. Contacted someone from church. They head over right away. They took care of the kids, gave me that space to really concentrate what's going on. They took their clothes, they took them with, and they said, look, you take care, we take care, we're here for you. And for me, just like in general, then in the beginning, it was just she was gone. And I'm like, this is not her. This She's not that kind of person. She was so looking forward to this pregnancy. She just gotten the sonogram. We were going to find out the following week if it's a boy or girl. She kept calling in, oh, my little peanut had the legs closed. I can't see. So she was excited. Even her friends said, I just spoke to her a few days ago. We were making plans. Our baby's a month apart. She was focused on what she was going to do as a mother. And she always said, I'm going to be like you. And I said, no, you're going to be better than me. And she's like, I'm going to be like you. I'm going to put rules down, but I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to be there for my kids. I'm going to make the dreams come true. And I said, you're going to be better than me, sweetie. I said, not like me. So that hurt because she was gone. Uh, Finding out, you know, of course, my husband gets, sent over, with the police department. We're all there embracing what just happened. I think, by the way, my husband's a retired police officer, but I think
Mm,
I became a detective because when he got there, he said all he was told is, "I'm sorry." And he says, as a police officer, he just felt they handled it so cold because he had to handle situations like this. And he said he was never as cold. And he was just told, sorry, she's gone. Do you want to go
mhm,
identify the body? And
mhm.
he was like, no. He goes, what do you mean she's gone? Turned to my son in law, and all he yelled is, she's been going through depression. Depression? My daughter has no depression. So it was just like up in the air. They just told my husband that's losing it you know, um, seeing a body go past you and then eventually being brought home and then telling me, I don't think that was really her. That can't be her. It's just impossible. It's impossible. So we had to obviously eventually go identify, but her husband already identified. He's the husband. I became the detective because I just couldn't accept it. I went to, besides the morgue, I went to all her appointments, how many times she'd been in the hospital, what was she diagnosed with. I knew she was taking previously a medication that was for consistent vomiting, but she said it was I remember her saying, "It's not helping me." So she had stopped because I wanted to make sure to see if that medication was in her system. She had stopped. I went to the police officer to find out how did the house look, any type of trauma. I needed to find out more beyond of just your daughter's gone. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of researching, and during that research, I had a friend of ours who's in the medical field and said, I understand what she must have gone through. And I said, what do you mean? And she shared with me the word perinatal depression because I had seen in my daughter's journaling and in her Googling now the word, you know, why am I not sleeping well? Why am I having all these bad thoughts? And I go, bad thoughts? What kind of bad thoughts? She said, I'm not going to be a good mother. Why do I feel, instead of feeling always happy, why do I feel regrets? I go, what? This is not her. Now I'm even looking at the handwriting. Is this her handwriting? You just don't
Yeah.
feel, this is not who you knew. This is not who was looking forward to this. And so, um, she even had things like, one of the things she said, if I didn't finish my education, will I still be prepared, to be a mother? And I go, my gosh, you're young enough. I'm like, why is she writing these things? So I'm sharing with this friend, and she says to me, I know what she was going through. And I said, what? She goes, it's perinatal depression. I go, a what? And she goes, it's postpartum during pregnancy. I go, I never heard of that. And so she And she's a medical field, and she's a nurse, and she started, it really getting emotional. She goes, "I went through that." And I go, "You went through that?" She goes, "I went through that and I didn't share because I felt uncomfortable because of the field that I'm in." She goes, "But you used to come visit me every single time when I was going through dark thoughts and you had no idea you were saving me." Blow me away. I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I had thoughts in my head and you be ringing my bell. You saved me and you didn't even know." And so I said, "Saved you? Like you would have been, yeah, I would have been to the same thing." I was like, "Okay, then talk to me more about this." Now I'm Googling that specific word, perinatal depression, and I didn't get much information. So now I'm going to the hospitals and I'm saying, "I need information perinatal." There was no pamphlets. There was nothing on perinatal depression. So we're 2 months into this of trying to stop being detective, knowing now that she did not do this because she didn't care. Some people coldly, very coldly would say, "What selfish thing to do?"
Mm.
And I thought, even though I never crossed my mind, I thought it was selfish. I just thought, how could it get to this point is all I kept asking myself. I never questioned my faith. I never questioned my son-in-law. I knew that he did the best. They were both young, 20, 21 years old. I just thought, how could this have happened? But then finding out this word that there's not enough information on, I just started contacting the hospitals and the midwives and the doulas, and they were open to speak with me. Then I came across NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. The president at that time, she took me out of under her wing, who was also from New York but living in New Mexico. And yeah, she became, I called her my mommy NAMI because she had no children. She was older. And so I read on information about mentally, chemically, and I thought, okay, let's talk about the word chemically. Whoa, a woman chemically goes through a lot. So let me research more. I started attending, you know, different lectures that to the hospitals just to sit there and listen more about postpartum. Okay, that's again, this is postpartum after babies were born. And then I thought, I went to Department of Health, and then you see that the statistics and suicide of moms that have passed away, pregnant moms. And I said, if my daughter can go through this without originally having no history and quietly has suffered, how many more out there that are being misdiagnosed or are not being documented on that certificate passed away because of mental health, situation than just suicide,
Mhm.
you know? So in dreams, I tell people some believe in dreams, some don't. Um, my daughter's voice is, "Mom, I need you to help people." And by then, my my other daughter had opened up a blog just on who her sister was. She didn't want people to look at her as someone that was cold and considerate and unselfish, just, she took the easy way out. That's what people think. She took the easy way out. And so for me, I thought that was her way of being able to help herself emotionally for people not to talk bad about her sister. But people were not asking questions. What happened? What is she feeling? When did this happen? So people started asking questions about emotional stuff that we didn't know what to answer. But meanwhile, I'm having this dream. She's telling help people, help people. I'm like, what do you mean? Help them away. And then one or two things came together and with the president of NAMI said would you ever open up something like an organization, nonprofit? I said, I don't know anything about nonprofits. And she goes, I think you could do this. She goes, she says something, you like to talk. And I said, that's what I've been taught my whole life. She goes, and I think you could do this. Just educate yourself. And so within dreams, I think I kind of talked to my daughter. I said, is it a nonprofit? Should I do this? And of course, her nickname was KK, so Casey's Cause. I always tell people joking, I said, it's not because I can't spell cause. It's just the K. I know cause is with a C, but, KK had a K. So we did a Casey's Cause, her cause to be able to make a difference in her name, that I know that she did not pass away in vain. And if I look at it as a faith-based, if she was a purpose to be gone, to save so many more lives, then I have to look at to be grateful that she was 21 years of my life for whom she was, that I could use as an example, to other people that nobody's immune. She was a young woman who was successful in everything that she did. She was a happy, jolly young woman that everybody loved her for her big smile and how she even helped people. I was shocked at her funeral. There were like almost 350 people. I didn't know half of them. And a lot of them was because they said she touched my heart. She kept me on high school on a good path, or she advised me to go to college, or she told me, don't have sex, things like the most craziest things. She was there advising people, and I didn't know who they were. Teachers from elementary school when they heard came, the CEO of the New Mexico football team, because her husband was the football team, came. The CEO of the company she had worked in came, and I was like, there were cameras, like what's going on? People knew, you know, a difference that somehow she had touched their lives, and that for me meant not so much that I did a good job, but she left a legacy of being a good person, and that we need to really pay attention to even a person that looks like they're doing so well in life could still be struggling. And we have to stray away from the, you know, the, that we have this thing in our heads. What does depression look like? We leave the word emo out of the way, put that aside. We all struggle in some way or another. We all do. But those who do get affected need that help without being criticized. So Casey's Cause was born uh, 11 years ago this March, to be able to bring the awareness and the education. So now I open the eyes in the medical field because I linked myself with all three hospitals. I had just become a doula right before my daughter passed away. So now I was doing doula work in the hospital, deliver all my grandkids. Left with us two, the word COVID babies, yeah. Um, and at the same time, I was looking to do services as a doula for those unfortunate ones who couldn't afford it before it became covered through Medicaid, which I did go also to advocate in Congress about being able to advocate that, because not everybody is able to afford it, And so I would tell people I'm like a quarter of that price, but it goes back to cases cause to be able to help others, and that's what we did. Help by some teens that go through different school programs that who couldn't afford it and needed the support. Um, and I I think I look back now, we get calls from nurses saying we just got mom leaving NICU and she's having a hard time. Please contact her. We get referrals from therapists say they need a support group. Do you know where to send them? I get calls from my husband. I heard about your website. My wife is going through symptoms. How do I know if it's, perinatal depression or postpartum depression? And I'm like, oh, we're real. Oh,
Yeah.
so the people take this seriously. Okay, great. And so we've been growing because with the whole nonprofit organization, we've been able to get sponsors for our events that we hold. A maternal mental health summit, which we're preparing now for April. We held car shows because New Mexico is known for car shows. So,
That piqued my interest. I am
yeah.
a car fanatic, so yeah.
And our gala at the end of the year is bringing a lot of businesses and organizations to be able to support and have their name out there. So it's a win-win deal.
Yeah.
Uh, and be able to, at the same time, kind of end the year with, I feel, a success of we got this, we did this, and let's do one more year again. Because it's been a long road, 10 years of really pushing those events, of not knowing what to do. I learned what to do. I've attended so many conferences and lectures. I affiliated myself with PSI, Postpartum Support International. I was the liaison when we first opened up the chapter, but then I still am the coordinator for New Mexico State. And I was facilitating the Spanish support group, which is worldwide, which is incredible. There's four of us. So I just got involved with everything in Mama's Voices. I got involved with 2020 Moms, which became the it changed to the Policy Changers Center, but it was 2020 Mom years ago. Um, got involved with, gosh, so many other organizations with moms to be able to really shadow everything they have for me to get as much knowledge. And I told my husband, with so many CEUs, I got my master's by now. There was so many
Yeah.
CEUs offered. Um, but the experience of listening to other moms' experiences gave me comfort to understand, in a painful way, what my daughter must have been thinking. and what she must have been feeling. And on the contrary, listening, watching her journaling, and then when her husband gave me the phone, one of the things, last things that she said, she was arguing with her husband. And she said, "Why would you call my mom? She has so much on her plate," because my daughter had been with the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, me with the kids. My other daughter was having a hard time with her marriage. She said, she has so much in place. She does so much for everybody. Why would you go and contact her? You know? So I said to myself, people want to say she was selfish. She was scared to put any more on my plate. On the contrary, because she loved me, she felt that she had no way out. So for me, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to do what I do. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had her in my life, even though it was 21 years. And at the same time, I think I go back to my faith gave me the strength to continue doing what I do. Because if she could have silently go through this, how many more need to be reached without being a stigma over their heads that they're considered bad moms? Even for CYFD, which is Child Protective Services in New Mexico, I've done presentations, I've done workshops this whole past year. We did so many workshops within Blue Cross Blue Shield and with Home Specialist of New Mexico. It's a delivery high cost center. We did so many. And for me, it was such a blessing to feel like you came to me, to do this. I'm going to do my best. And thank you for understanding that the story shares with more people than what we know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so A, you clearly were meant to advocate. And when like the joke that you keep telling, like that you talk a lot, yes, you do, but your message is so clear and so powerful. And the thing that keeps coming back to me as you're talking about Casey and as you're talking about Casey's cause and everything is you're a nurturer and you have been from the start for your children, for the people around you that you didn't even know that you were necessarily nurturing. And even I am also a very big believer in dreams and spirit communication and all of that stuff. I might be a little woo woo, but that's okay.
No,
Um,
that's good. That's
but
good. We got it here.
right. Um, so you're still being a caretaker and being a voice for Casey
Yeah.
today, and you're giving a space for the voices of everyone who is suffering in silence. And I know, like you said, like this happened 11 years ago now. It's only in the last year. So I've been doing this work. I've been doing this advocacy work for 3 years now. And I'm also affiliated with Postpartum Support International. And it's only in the last year that we've started even in the last 6 months, we've started shifting our language. We used to say PMADs all the time, postpartum mental health and anxiety disorders, and now we're shifting it to PMHD, perinatal mental health
Mhm.
disorders,
Mhm.
because just like you said, people do not realize that these mental health disorders can affect you starting from conception, starting in pregnancy, and continuing throughout. And the stigma is still there. It's still there, and people like you and people through all the organizations that you're connected with, you really are very well connected. You like you said, you should just, like, be an honorary, like, expert at this point. Not even honorary, you just are. We need to I'm gonna print you out a plaque. This is a perinatal mental health expert. Um but the work that we're all trying to do is just like you said, erase that stigma, erase that shame. Because if you can even tell one person rather than Google, like you said, Casey was Googling. And like you said, her husband was just doing the best he could with what he knew. He didn't
Yeah.
understand it either. And
No.
if you can just reach out to one and be like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I don't I try so hard not to get into, like, my own personal opinions or my own things like that, but, like, to hear you speak about how many times she sought help from the hospital, I feel like they failed her, and maybe it was a lack of knowledge at the time, maybe it was a lack of understanding, but it's not a justification, and it's why we're doing the work that we're doing, right? And it's why you're doing the work that you're doing. I just yeah, I so full disclosure, listeners, I found you, Susan, through Casey's Cause, because when I saw what you guys were doing, well, first of all, I saw your post about a car show, and I was like, perinatal mental health and a car show. Like, what is this? These are like two of my passions. Um, but then I looked into it more, and I looked into Casey's story, and I looked into your story, and I was like, I need to meet this woman. I need to meet this woman because
Yes.
you're a
Yeah.
powerhouse. You are a powerhouse. You are a caretaker at heart, an advocate at your core, and I am so blown away by you could have I don't even know how to word this. There are so many different paths your life could have taken, right? You had your own challenges with your first round of kiddos and your
Mhm.
second round of kiddos. Like, you had your own challenges and life could have gone any certain way. And then you're faced with something that no parent ever imagines that they would experience. And I don't believe in silver linings. It's 100% okay if you do, but I believe that you were called, like you said, you went into detective mode. Um, you did. So you felt your feelings, you allowed yourself to feel your feelings, but then you were like, "Nope, I need to figure out what this is. I need to figure out why this is happening." And then when you did, you're like, "I need to stop this from happening to other people." And this doesn't even begin to sum it up, but that's crazy amazing. That's great. So not only are you raising your children and taking care of your older children, but you are also a voice and a safe space for people all over the world who are going through something that we still don't talk about enough. So I know I'm kind of like
Mhm.
pouring on the, but
No,
I truly do
I
feel this
yeah.
way. That was why I was so called. I was like, I need to meet you. I need to meet you. Um, I've completely lost my train of thought, and it's just because I truly am in awe. I'm in awe of what you and your family
Thank
have
you.
created with Casey's Cause. What do you see and what do you hope for as the future of Casey's Cause?
Well, just wanna quickly backtrack a little bit, 2 years 2 years into it, I feel it's there's people who are audio, people who are more like, virtual. Um, I got the idea of doing a documentary, and I directed
Okay.
and produced a documentary,
Oh
which is, Casey's Hope.
my god!
I know. Casey's Hope, My Life for Yours. And, we use it as an educational tool. Some home visiting programs wanted to training with the community health workers. And it became more beyond. And the young woman who's my friend who shared with me, she's in the documentary. And I reach out to doctors, and I have doctors in the documentary. I have local actors in the documentary that my son-in-law was able to help me now. Now he looks back, there were signs that he wasn't aware of. And for me, again, I don't look at it as, "Oh, good job, Susan." I look at it like, "What more can we do? What more can we do?" I keep thinking, "What more can we do?" And I look at such a satisfaction that documentary has been able to reach out to some local agencies to help in visual to those who need to not hear it only in paper, but see it,
Mhm.
for people's voices and professionals and the local actors that acted out their reactions. I told them about her and I said, "We're gonna go with the flow." And I was like, "I'm directing now, okay." You know,
Yeah.
and we did that. And we did that. And I was like, "No, she cried a little better than that. Oh no, she would have got more mad than that." Things like that. And we just did it over and over again. It was such a blessing to see that even at the end of it, the actors were like, "We don't have kids yet, we're not married, but wow." They're like, "Wow, thank you for educating me in this process of what I'm doing." Um, I just want I guess for me, most of all, I don't even care my name being used out there. I want Casey's cause of who she was, that it's about not a mom that lost a child. It's about a legacy of an agency that helps other people. That's what I want. That it's a name that people know because one person for many more, like the film, Casey's Hope, My Life for Yours. That's what it is, for many more to get the help. And my future for it is that Like I told my little one, she goes, "By the way," I said, "You're the future CEO." I said, "When the time comes," she's like, "What?" And she's 16. "I'm gonna be a CEO." She goes, "Okay, I'm reading on what I want us to do." I said, "Just get educated." I said, "You see what mom does. You see all the information that I have. We have pamphlets and everything. I need you to educate yourself because what I do is for you, your nieces, your sisters, and your own children. This is for the future." I said, "It's not only about Casey, it's about everybody else from here on, and men." I had no idea men girls have paternal postpartum. I was in awe. So I share with men and women. It used to be just our women in our events. No, there's men there and they ask
Yeah.
questions. So it's that's my goal is seeing that if when time comes I could step down or step away, that it continues on, with my younger daughter or so with someone, that this is something important to give mom a break of being pointed out that she's got to be. I could tell people we're not Kardashians. We don't have a nanny. We don't have a cook.
Yes.
We don't have a trainer. I said, I probably look like a Kardashian too. I said, but no, we don't have that. Reality being motherhood is hard. The beginning, and so who knows until my last breath. I don't know, but motherhood is hard because it's not easy. It's just different chapters. It's
Mhm.
just different chapters, you know? Pregnancy to infancy to toddler to a child to teens to even young adults, and even when they become their own families, you're still a parent. You still have that contact with them. Motherhood is chapters, and I think people need to understand that. And that's my goal for people to see that. It's not easy. It's worth it. It is worth it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's work.
Yeah. It's not often that I have a hard time finding words. You are honoring Casey's legacy, but you're also honoring your legacy as well, and you're honoring all of your kids' legacy. From everything that you've spoken to me about today, you have always wanted them to achieve what they wanted to achieve, right? Your goal in life is to make sure that your kids see a future that they want to see, that they like, that they're passionate about. And even with Casey, you're ensuring a future that helps other mothers like her feel validated and feel seen. And you know what? And I see you. I see you. I see the mom behind all of this. I see the hard work that you're doing, and I just have so much respect for you. And
Thank
I
you.
I know I said that before, but I just can't express it enough. I am beyond grateful that you chose to spend some time with me. I am beyond thankful that I've gotten to know you, that I've gotten to know Casey even just a little bit and her story. And I'm so excited to be able to follow your journey and follow Casey's cause and learn more. Um, Before I get to my wrap up, for my listeners, and this will be in the show notes as well, if they want to learn more, where is the best place for them to find you and find information?
Well, our website, which is www.kassyskausk.org. We have our email there. If they need assistance, as you know, with coordinators with PSI, I'll get contact because of the website. And then they're calling from another state, and I have redirected them to a coordinator to this state with PSI. So I always say you can email me. The email's there. The phone is even there. I've had, believe it or not, I left my car once purposely in Oklahoma. I had gone visit. We're going through there. A mom who's pregnant, who was cleaning, and she called me. Um, and so I was able to direct her to a PSI coordinator in Oklahoma, and she was going through depression during her pregnancy. So I think, for me, you just don't stop. I think it's just part of life. It just, at least I made it a part of my life.
Yeah.
Where I go, I'll leave that card. I'll leave that card. It might not be for them, or they know somebody. I always say you might know somebody. I tell people, if you didn't go through it, great, and if you're not going through it, great. But there might be someone else, and at least you know where you could direct them. So yeah, it's the website, email, and that number.
Yeah, and you guys are on Instagram too, and I'll
Yeah,
tag
everybody's
I'll tag
welcome.
all of that in the show notes so that whoever needs you or wants to learn more can get in touch with you. Um,
Even directing doulas. I love directing doulas because now I'm not there, and
yes.
I love doula. I actually had one. I had delivered her baby with her and her midwife. We did a UNM hospital. He's now 7, and then no, he's 7. And so she waited 3 years, and then just 3 years ago when I was moving, she goes, "I have news to tell you." And I go, "What?" And then she goes, "I'm pregnant. I can't wait." And then she was all excited, and I go, "Oh," and I already had moved. She goes, "See, remember I had moved away, I'm gonna send you a good dude." She goes, "I can't do this." And I go, she goes, "You have to be here." And I said, "No." I said, "I don't." She goes, "No, no, no." She goes, "I can't do this. You have to be here." I said, "When are you due?" So I went a week earlier from when I was supposed to be there in New Mexico. And I just like the last, it was I would say her last 2 trimesters, we just kept in touch on Zoom. You know, I told her how appointments were going. And I said, "You eating this? Are you doing walking?" and so forth. And so day of, I got there a week early, and luckily it would have been she had the baby a week after when I was supposed to be there anyways, and I was there to be with her at the hospital for that baby, and her husband said, "We couldn't do this if you weren't here. We would not do this if you weren't here. We would have gone to you." I thought it was so sweet. So we have, like, a 73-year-old, so she sends me pictures as they're growing up, and she goes, "This is Auntie Susan, say hello." She's so sweet. She's so sweet. And she says it, she goes, "I heard about it." She goes, "When you were doing a table at one of the hospitals, you were doing a vendor table. I picked up your information, and back then," she goes, "I was planning to have kids. Um, but listening," she goes, "watching them, I started following you." She goes, "You were on the radio." She goes, "You were on the newspaper, and I saw you here, saw you there." And I was like, "Okay, I'm pregnant now. I'm gonna contact her." She goes, "I don't think I would have been able to do this without your support." She goes, "You advocate on paper?" She goes, "But boy, oh boy, you advocated me in the hospital," because she's Native American and the
Mm,
husband's Caucasian. And she was just being ignored, and I was not gonna go for that. And so
no.
I was like, "Excuse me." She rang that bell 3 times, like, "Oh, we'll get to her." I said, "No, you didn't get to her now. Keep on that checker, please." So things like that. She goes, "So I was not gonna be able to have a second child unless you were there to advocate for me." So I was so glad that I felt I could be part of her journey with her
Mhm.
children, and even through the process after she had her first one, she felt a little bit, a little bit outside of the baby blues. And I told her that's okay, not for you to feel guilty, you know, contact, practitioner. She knew that she was not alone. And I think as women, it's great if we have moms, and it's great we have aunties and really good friends, but sometimes you need someone outside of that bubble to make you feel like it's okay to complain without being judged. Because sometimes family will judge you, not purposely, but they do. And so I think that's why, again, we talk about the education, the awareness, and making it comfortable. And I'd be judged to say, "I hate being a mom today." It's okay.
Yes,
I hate being a mom today. you know.
100%. And I am all about the doulas. If I had known about doulas back when I
Me
had
too.
my kid, oh, it would have been a totally different experience. But yeah, doulas are insane advocates. So yes, we love a doula. Okay. I say this so often, but I truly mean it. I could talk to you for hours. If I could, I would. Um, but I'm gonna bring us home. And what I'm doing, I'm ending my episodes differently than I have in seasons past. I'm asking you to kind of it's a little exercise. Um, so I say it's harkening back to the days before cell phones and text message and everything, when you actually had to like leave a message if you wanted to contact someone. So you don't know who my next guest is going to be. You don't know anything about them or their journey or their story, but you called Quiet Connection today. So you're going to leave them a message. And you can interpret that in whatever way feels right for you. But for my next guest, what message is on your heart to leave for them?
um, I'm so glad you reached quite a connections. Feel comfortable enough to open up without any judgment and know that you're being heard.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for trusting this space. Thank you
Mm.
for sharing your story with me and for spending time with me. And just thank you for everything that you are doing in the world of perinatal mental health and advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you, you too. I'm here because of you too. So thank you.
I am beyond grateful to Susan for sharing Kassy's story and for the life-saving work she does every day. To learn more about Kassy's cause or Susan's documentary, please check the links in our show notes. Susan reminds us that while motherhood has its good, bad, and ugly chapters, you were never meant to do this alone. If you want to learn more or share your own story, visit our website, quietconnectionpodcast.com, or send me an email at chelsea@quietconnectionpodcast.com. Make sure you're following us on all your favorite social media platforms and share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. Now go grab your emotional support water bottle, do something kind for yourself, and remember, you are not alone. I see you.